Hi, Chase.
Hi there. How you doing?
Well, I'm very excited to be speaking with you about Naked Singularity. I can tell you that much.
Oh, goody. Well, I'm happy to be on with you to talk about it. Our wild movie.
It is. I was intrigued by this. I hadn't read the book. I actually have it in a stack in my house of yet to reads. But I spent almost 30 years in law. So immediately, this tale piqued my curiosity because of what I witnessed firsthand with the justice system in Los Angeles and how often it was more injustice than just. What you have done in bringing this from page to screen is wonderful. You provide this great subtextual commentary. You perfectly cast John Boyega as Cassie. This is so on the money in so many respects. And then to have this whole heist twist in there is delicious. This is so well done. And for something that is especially dialogue heavy, which after seeing It Chapter 1, you do not shy away from dialogue heavy material.
It can be fun to write sometimes, especially when you have good source material.
What led you to Sergio's novel? And what sparked in you that said, ooh, this would make a really good screenplay, and ooh, I should direct it?
I was approached by a longtime producer friend named Tony Gans, who has impeccable taste, and he had been developing Naked Singularity from the book for a while, for probably 6 or 7 years. There was a draft of a screenplay by David Matthews. I had not read the book, but I like Tony, and I loved the elevator pitch of doing a movie in the justice system that also has this other genre element to it that could be really fun. The short of it is I read the script. There were some good things that gave me enough of momentum to say, all right, I'm going to dive into Sergio's 800-page book and see what this is about. And it really was when I read the book that I was hooked. I mean, there's Sergio's voice is so funny and specific, and it's outraged. There's absurdist humor. There's these great philosophical rants. There's these metaphysical flights of fancy. There's so many things going on in that book that got me excited, and also that felt like it could be cinematic. That I just was really hooked, and again, particularly with his voice, he just obviously he's been doing this for 20 years. His wife Susanna is also a public defender in Brooklyn for 20 years, and it was just so well observed. But from a sense of dark humor of the world is messed up, but you could see the absurdity of that and still find something colorful to kind of latch onto. I don't know. It was a new way into having a conversation or telling a story about this place, and it really came from the voice of the book. And so that was it. I wanted to capture the spirit of that in a film. How do we do something that is all of those different kind of things that I mentioned, that outrage and humor and absurdity and genre mashup and everything into a film. And it seemed like a challenge, honestly, to try to tackle. So that's how I got into it. And then I started writing it. I wasn't originally attached to direct. There were other directors attached that fell off very early in the process. And so I just wrote my version of the script as if I was going to direct it. And by the end of it, I got the support from Tony and to do it. And we built the movie together.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now, when you're adapting a project as dense and with a voice as distinctive as Sergio's, uh, did you find it difficult at all or challenging in writing the screenplay to insert your own voice in there as well?
I think one of the reasons I responded to his script is my voice dovetails with his own. Like I've tended to write in other movies, dialogue heavy, genre bending, sort of intellectual, but also pulpy scripts. And so it was sort of like my voice fit really in tandem with his. It didn't feel like I was having to twist myself too much to get in there. It was really his experience and his observations which were the things that I couldn't come to the script with. But from a tonal, attitudinal kind of thing, I kind of was already there. And so it was a nice fit. Like, I like movies that are, that are pulpy and entertaining, but I also want to be challenged. I want to, and I love, dense, fun, meaty writing. All of those things were present in the book, and so it was just, down my alley.
Well, you definitely give us a dense, fun, and meaty film, and that's one of the standout things. Your visuals here are very metaphoric, and they capture the essence of what's happening. I think your courtroom scenes between John's character of Cassie and Linda Lavin as Judge Cymbeline are spot on perfection. Casting Linda Lavin in that role, Chase, was brilliant. As I'm watching her the whole time, I kept thinking of a judge in Santa Monica that I would watch for decades. And that same hard-nosed, get sarcastic with the attorneys and like to dispense rulings and verdicts that were really inappropriate. So to see that truth rooted in this character and in her performance, I just fell in love with what you were doing with this film. Because the casting for these roles is so important, once you knew you would be directing, how challenging was the casting process to find the right people for these words?
I mean, that's the scariest part. I think that's what keeps you up at night. If you can't cast it properly, you're sort of sunk before you even begin, And I think if you cast it well, then you are so much further along than you ever, would be otherwise. So it's everything, right? And so for me, it just started with Cassie, and by the time I was finishing the script up, I knew it was going to be John. Like, it had to be John. He was my first choice. I'd seen Detroit. Obviously, I saw Attack the Block and Star Wars and all that work of his, which, he's clearly a charismatic, movie star. But when I saw Detroit, I just saw somebody that, could give and convey like a range of emotions and feeling, without actually having to be that active as a character, right? Like he had to observe and then absorb and emote. And like, we just got to see so much in him, and but John just has this like a core integrity and sort of sense of indignation that I felt was aligned with who Cassie was. So it was just like that was a simple like sort of fit. I just felt like he was the right guy, and we waited a long time for him to read, and he eventually read and connected with the character. So I think that was getting Cassie right was the first step, and once we got John, we were on our way. And then it's like the cascade of getting Olivia Cook in was the second one. Who's going to play Leah, and she's one step ahead of all these guys every step of the way. And she's a little bit of a film noir femme fatale, but there's something modern about her as well. And getting the right person to play that, somebody who's super smart and who is she's a criminal in the movie, but you're empathetic to her situation. Yes. And what she's trying to achieve. So, she's just such a good actress. She's so prepared and lovely and just good at giving you so many different options, in the editing room. So you just sort of build it up, and obviously Bill Skarsgård and Scrine and both of whom you're dealing with sort of the comic foil, from Bill's perspective. He's almost like the devil on John's shoulder. And he actually brought like this screwball comedy charm to the role that was really fun to give us a little bit of lightness on whenever he shows up. And then Ed is our heavy, but I didn't want to play him like a straight heavy either. I wanted to play him a little bit weirder, like the film, and have somebody who has a real philosophical ballast about what he's doing and why he's doing it, even if it's strange and hard to define, what he's up to. So those guys, both of them embody that, that well. I mean, Bill, obviously, I worked on it, and so having written that screenplay, co-wrote that screenplay, and seeing how hard it was to get, Pennywise to be a character on the page, and I thought we did the best job we could do, and I was proud of it. But then seeing what Bill Skarsgård was able to do with that character, and was made that an easy casting choice, because I saw what the words on the page were, and then I saw what he did with them, and it was elite.
Well, watching Bill and John go back and forth, it is an incredible pairing of contrast and juxtaposition that you have here. And I love your description of Bill's character of Dane as being, the devil on Cassie's shoulder in many cases. But the two of them play off each other so well. And this is where John's observational skills and just letting the camera rest on him. You and Andres, your cinematographer, what you do, you capture John's his thoughts. You see the ambiguity. You see his internal conflict of ethics and morality. And, Bill, on the other hand, he's as Dane, he's just out there, man.
Yeah, he's over it. He's checked out. He's not fighting a good fight anymore. He's just trying to figure out what's the best way to change up his situation.
And I love that you let the camera show us that. It makes it much easier for people to really grasp, exactly what is happening out there. What is happening in the justice system? Because this stuff, it does go on. So to see what you have done visually in tandem with these performances and the character construct is exciting. It's very exciting, Chase.
Well, I like what you said about Linda Lavin, and as somebody, as you have said, as somebody who's witnessed the system work, we like to think of it as like this sort of unthinking, fair, sort of, bookish system, but it's full of personalities, and it's personal, and people make personal choices every day that throws the system out of skew in a bad way, but also in a way that every case is personal. Like, these people's lives can be uprooted, and upended through the most petty of judgments, and I think you do need to be take each case as it's an individual, while also trying not to bring, as Cymbeline does, her own baggage into, every interaction, where she's seen, 30 years worth of guilty people, and she's just moving people, along through her court as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But it's that's her job, but these are people's lives, and it's those two things, butt up every day, and John actually spent a day in the court with me and a young public defender, and we just sat in the courtroom watching people come in front of the judge, and either be able to walk out of the court or be walked back into holding. So we really try to get it right and get that sense of both the absurdity, the pettiness of it, the sort of mechanical nature of it, but also the personal nature of it, and that comes from the book and from our research and trying to get it right.
Well, you nailed it. Trust me, you nailed it, Chase. I love the visuals that you have. I love the intimacy that you create within the courtroom itself, within, during our heist, as we get into the Orthodox Jewish community, within Leah's job at the impound yard. Everything is very intimate. The only time we really see a big wide world is in that third act. I'm curious about how you developed the visual tonal bandwidth of the film, because it's rich, but it's gritty. You've got saturation in there that gives it almost a noirish sense. So I'm curious how you developed the visual design of Naked Singularity.
we had something that I sort of told the actors, I told our production, team, Andre, my DP. It was basically, the idea here was to create a movie in New York that was like a vinyl record version of your favorite contemporary band. Mm-hmm. That was sort of the idea. And so there's just something, there was something kind of retro about, the movie itself, often because of just like where we're shooting, right? We're in these courthouses and tow pounds and on the waterfront, and everything has like a patina to it. Everything kind of feels like a fringy, retro version of New York. So just by virtue of our story that we're telling, where we're shooting it, there's just something kind of retro about it. And then you're dealing with like the genre of the crime genre that was influenced by like Elmore Leonard, and that mm-hmm. also has sort of a retro quality to it. So all of that kind of influenced the visual design of the movie, both in costumes, the production design, and how, Andre shot the film and how we colored it to make it feel a little noirish, mm-hmm. a little kind of, a little 70s-ish, if you could go there. I mean, we definitely use, a lot of those era movies visually as sort of, touchstones with the use of some of the zooms that we did and, how we move the camera. So that was sort of the scheme. And the idea of having it kind of heightened like that, where it's like a New York, but it's really a heightened version of Naked Singularity. New York was to kind of help even out the swerves in genre that we were having in the film. It sort of starts out as one film and goes to another, and that tonal shift needed to, I think, be sort of mellowed out a little bit by like a unified visual approach that was itself kind of heightened. Mm-hmm. That was our idea behind it.
I love it, and it works really well. Plus, it also gives it's almost a surreal kind of feel, which to many people, the justice system is kind of surreal. But the only time you really open things up are in that third act with the three of them standing out there looking, at the river. That's the only time you really feel that the world is expanding. Otherwise, you're in this microcosm. And it's very effective for drawing you into this story and really understanding what Cassie is going through. And I really appreciate that you did that.
Okay, yeah, I think the idea, I think all these characters are stuck in their own worlds, right? And the movie is about, about changing those worlds and the possibility of new ones. And so I think we didn't want to tip the hand that there were better worlds out there until they've gone through, it.
Yeah.
And gotten to the other side.
How challenging was the editing on this one? You're working with Katie McQuarrie. You had to find the right beats here because a film like this, you could get too heavy-handed on the heist aspect. On the heist aspect, you could drone along in the courtrooms, but you really have a nice ebb and flow balance here. So I'm curious how challenging that editing process was for you as a first-time feature director.
It was very challenging. It was challenging insofar as that, like, you feel like you failed since you both wrote and directed the thing when things don't work the way you thought they would work, and that so there were some structural shifts that had to happen to make the story flow a little bit better, and I was you just sort of have to accept that on the page it worked well, and now it's going to work differently and better as a movie. You got to sort of think of the movie now and not the script, and just to encounter that for the first time was challenging. Katie was an amazing collaborator and just super experienced, and somebody who's worked with the Coen brothers. She knows how to balance tone. She mm-hmm. knows how to get a very specific kind of tone out of films and balance the emotion and the heavy dialogue and the philosophy and the violence and the thriller aspect. She's done it before, so she was a great ally and teacher as well. I learned a lot from her, but it took a long time to find the right balance. Figuring out how much of the courtroom scenes do we show. I mean, we certainly cut them down. There was we really got into the nitty gritty of the back and forth. So you have to find the right beats, which back and forth beats are the ones that are the most effective, so we can keep the movie moving, and particularly the ripples, all the moments of John sort of experiencing the world collapsing around him, or however one wants to interpret what he's experiencing. There's things that didn't make it in the final cut. There's things that we we reconceived while in post-production. There's stuff that we sort of tweaked. I mean, it was a constant, push and pull. You just keep finding it. There's a quote that I love from Alexander Payne, where he basically says tone wasn't built in a day, and that truly is it. Tone is just, it's a feeling inside your head, and you're just slowly kind of working your way to get there. But it's hard to just sort of shoot an arrow and hit that target.
Absolutely. Because you were wearing multiple hats here as a writer and director, and this is also adapted from Sergio's work. How precious were you with the words on the page, or did you really step into that trial by fire as a director, realizing once you started shooting, something isn't going to work? You may have to kill some of your darlings. Was that ever a concern of yours on this one?
No, I mean, no, in part because I think the actors embraced the words. I think on the page, I mean, they loved the writing and loved speaking, the reams of dialogue that we had. And I think when we were doing, run-throughs and blocking, there was certainly moments and scenes where we were just like, whoa, that's just, there's a lot, there's just too much going on. We need to cut, this section of lines. And either it would come from Bill or from John or from myself. And we were almost always in agreement because there was already so much there. Mm-hmm. And so, there's no reason to die on the hill of a couple lines of dialogue when you're dealing with 4 pages of dialogue. It was just really trying to find the right rhythm of stuff. So that worked out quite well. Everyone was pretty flexible, but for the most part, everyone felt good about the script. So we shot the script.
A big element that a lot of first-time feature directors, even first-time short directors, overlook is the score. And with a film like Naked Singularity, because it's so dialogue heavy, you really need something to offset that, which is the score. And you have a really lovely score happening here. It's got some cinematic motifs to it. I'm curious what you were looking for when you talked with your composer, with Brendan Angelides, what you wanted musically for this film.
Just like the tone, we were deep in editing until we figured out what kind of music we wanted. I think originally I was more interested in like the Henry Mancini sort of Soderbergh approach to those sort of films, and that immediately was not working. It was too jokey and too, you couldn't balance the genre shifts with that music. Mm-hmm. So we pivoted to doing something electronic, which felt like you could sort of balance all that stuff, and Brendan just had amazing ideas. I mean, I all I could really say to him is, we want something that feels unified, that can sort of get the humor and get the sci-fi aspect and get the thriller aspect and have a few of these motifs. And also, the music is also sound design. The music itself needs to tell us when these ripples are happening, or and get into John's head when we need to get in John's head. And then he just started producing music that right away nailed it, what we needed to do. It was very exciting because it took a long time. We had a lot of temp score in the movie for a very long time, and nothing quite worked. And the movie didn't fully gel until Brendan came on and started working on it. And then his music just helped us, settle down the tone and know exactly how the whole thing was going to cohere. And so, I can't speak enough to what he was able to do for the film, and also just how important score was for a movie like this to actually, work.
I'm glad you went this route with Brendan, because as you were saying, you were thinking, okay, well, maybe, like a Henry Mancini kind of, and I'm thinking, having seen this film, I could never imagine that kind of score with this film. Yeah. It would have destroyed. Yeah, it would have.
Yeah, it was wrong. We saw it too, and we're like, this is terrible. This is not working. So you get, you have ideas, and sometimes you're 100% wrong, but that's the beauty of this, is that you just keep, hopefully you just keep on, challenging. Everyone challenges each other and comes up with the best solution.
So one more question for you, Chase. I'm curious, now that you have directed your first feature, you have survived directing the first feature and writing, what is the gift that it gives to you, this directorial experience? What is the gift that it gives to you that hopefully will make you say, I want to do this again?
I do want to do it again. I loved it. It's so much. I mean, I love writing, but writing isn't nearly as fun as directing. Directing is a blast. You're with so many talented, smart people. I just love being in the rooms with everybody, problem solving and making the movie better collectively. You know, as a writer, you're by yourself, and you don't know. You know, you have to challenge yourself, and it's hard to self-motivate like that. But with the directing, it's just the collaboration of it is something I want to do again. That was the big gift that came out of it. And actually, and be able to talk about something you made with folks like you, where it's nice to have something in the world that people can, they could take it and assess it and figure out, how it works for them or doesn't work for them. But from my perspective, like we made it and we're proud of it, and we'll move on to it's now out in the world. We'll move on to the next thing.
And to piggyback on that quickly, was there a big learning curve for you going from, because you had directed a couple shorts years ago, was that a big learning curve to jump into the feature arena?
There always is. Yeah, I mean, I felt pretty prepared because of the short films, but also, my screenwriting career, I've mostly been working directly with directors who are very good at what they do and learning from them. And so I came in, I think, as prepared as anybody could be for their first movie. And I'm surrounded by people I've worked with before. Andre shot my short films. Kevin Walsh at Ridley Scott's company I've known for 15 years, and Tony Gans I've known for like 15 years. So I was just surrounded by a lot of, and my wife was the costume designer on the film, who has been on more sets than I have in her career. So I was just surrounded with a lot of people who are experienced and who I could trust, and so it made it a lot easier than I think most folks might have on that first time out.
Well, job well done, Chase. I can't wait to see what you direct next. I am really excited to see what you bring us as a director.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm thrilled that we got a chance to talk and that you enjoyed the film.
Well, hopefully we will get to do it again in the near future.
Nice. I'd like to make more.
Oh,
talk to you again.
Chase, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.